are instances where I play a game out of sheer curiosity, and on occasions they're nothing remarkable. However, sometimes I find some great gems, and these are usually in the form of indie games. For those who don't know what an indie game is, it's essentially games that were developed and published by very small companies or groups of people. So not by the likes of Nintendo or SEGA, but by very small studios. For examples of indie games, there's a bunch of major ones like Undertale, Axiom Verge, Bastion, Five Nights at Freddy's, kinda I guess, and today's subject, Dust and Elysian Tail. I played Dust and Elysian Tail because of, well, two reasons. One, it's a Metroidvania, and for those who don't know me, I absolutely love Metroidvanias. And two, a YouTube reviewer I enjoy watching named Some Call Me Johnny did a review of this game, and well, I liked his review so much I thought it was worth the purchase. 3 times. I did do a Let's Play of Dust about a year ago, but I think now's a good time to revisit it. I remember having a good time with it, but maybe my opinions have changed. Well, let's find out in today's review of Dust and Elysian Tail. First off, let me just preface with this. Yes, the title is spelled right, and it does bother me slightly because it should be Tail, T-A-L-E, and not Tail. But whatever, let's first get into how this game came to be. Dust was developed by essentially one guy, Dean Dodrell, with some assistance in writing and in the soundtrack. He was originally working on an animated film called Elysian Tail, and I'm pretty sure that's where the idea for this game came from. He assumed the game would take about 3 months to make, but it actually took him 3 years, which is a lesson learned, huh? Anyway, the game was on Xbox Live Arcade and PC back in 2013, and it got mostly positive reviews. However, you know the drill. It's time to judge this game for myself and see if this praise is accurate based on my taste, or if there's some things that could have aged about it. But first, let's start with that plot summary. The game begins in a world called Falana. Our titular character wakes up in a forest and is approached by a sentient sword. I know what I said. This is the Blade of Ara, and that's all you're going to learn about it. Once Dust takes hold of Ara, a flying creature called a Nimbat confronts him. This is Fidget, Ara's guardian, and the comic relief of this game. Apparently, Dust has no idea about his past, and the trio set out to search for answers. Dust arrives to a village called Aurora that they see as being overrun with monsters. The mayor of the village requests Dust's help, and Dust goes to take out the leader of the enemies named Fuse. After a quick boss battle, Fuse reveals himself as a Moonblood. Moonbloods were victims of genocide by the main villain of this game, General Gaius. If you want to know more about the Moonbloods and who General Gaius is, and what the deal with the racism is, don't, because the game does not give you any sort of context on that. Yeah, that is one critique I have about this game. There is no depth in terms of the war between Gaius and the Moonbloods. I might have missed something, but there is no reason stated on why Gaius hates the Moonbloods so much, but whatever. Fuse reveals to Dust that he supposedly had a major role in the war, but of course Dust has no idea what's going on. Eventually, Dust talks to a girl named Ginger, who supposedly has more knowledge about the Moonbloods. Ginger is a Moonblood sympathizer who are also being hunted down by Gaius because, well, you can guess by the name of the group. After some back and forth and some unrelated tasks, Dust heads towards the mountains to the north. He comes across an abandoned village where Ginger and the leader of the Moonbloods, Elder Grey Eyes, were waiting. Grey Eyes reveals that Dust is actually created by the Moonbloods from 2 people that died at the same time, Jin, who is Ginger's brother, and Cassius, an assassin who worked with Gaius. The 2 souls are polar opposites that were fused together, to create a being that was powerful enough to save the Moonbloods. Cassius was purely evil but good with a sword, and Jin was purely good and incapable of fighting Gaius. With this combination, the Moonbloods created a being that was capable of fighting for good that they named Sen Mithrarin. Anyway, after quickly processing that information, Dust sets off to help the Moonbloods fight back against Gaius. Upon reaching the peak of the Everdawn Basin and some slight identity crisis, Dust and Gaius end it. Gaius takes his own life, and Dust sinks into the lava. After the battle, Grey Eyes gives a speech to the Moonbloods saying that because of Dust's sacrifice, they can now rebuild and live in peace with the world. However, Ginger and Fidget witness a dust cloud with Aura rising out of the volcano and flying away. Fidget chases the blade, and this leaves the possibility that Dust lives, ending Dust's Elysian Tail. Okay, I know that seemed very abridged, and it was. First, let me say that the story is good, but I don't think it really goes into enough depth to warrant talking about for such a long time. The story feels very by the numbers, and I think a little more depth would have helped it. First, I mentioned that there were really no clear motivations behind Gaius. As far as I'm aware, Gaius has no reason to hate the Moonbloods. Yes, Ginger does give a reason, but I don't find it a good enough reason. I feel like I should know why he started to hate the Moonbloods. What, did they not tip him well enough as a server? Did they borrow his lawnmower and not return it? Second, my problems lie with Dust himself. Dust has no memory of his past, and that's just sort of forgotten about within the first few hours. And once he finds out about him being a twin soul, he has a small conflict, but it goes away in seconds. moments. Dust is a person with no memories, and once he learns who he is, he just shrugs it off. You'd think he'd do a little more soul-searching and think about what he truly is. We get something like that right before the final boss, where Dust has an additional conflict about who he is, and it does result in a pretty cool monologue from him in this cutscene, but again, it's just one of 2 moments. I feel like there could have been more of a significant conflict with Dust, but there isn't one. He just continues on as if nothing happened. I thought there was going to be a chance for like an evil path at the end of the game when Gaius is trying to convince Dust to rejoin him, but no, there wasn't. I think that would have been an interesting part of the game, a sort of morality system where you can make choices and they influence the story. They do something like that in one of the side quests, but that's the only time it ever happens. It's not like it even matters in the first place, it's just a choice of putting Poison Ivy in Gianni's laundry, which he kinda deserves. You may have noticed that I skipped over the Mud Pot and Sorrowing Meadows sections of the story, and there's a simple answer to that. They don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, Aura and Grey Eyes mentioned that those arcs were sort of a test for Dust to see if the whole Twin Souls things worked, and that Jin took over to ensure Dust would help those in need, but it doesn't really add anything else besides that. I'm not saying that these sections are bad or anything. Actually, I really love the Mud Pot side quest, but it just doesn't add enough for the overall narrative to warrant mentioning it. I'm not saying that the story is bad, it just doesn't go into enough depth for me. I will say that I absolutely love the ending of the game and the arcs in Mud Pot and the Sorrowing Meadows. Those 2 moments are really good at capturing emotions, and they really convey the feeling of loss. They also show some emotion for Dust as he progressively gets angrier at Aura for not giving him answer. I mean, listen to Dust in this scene right here.
Damn it! We weren't fast enough!
I almost always tear up at the end of the Mud Pot quest because the delivery of the lines do a good job invoking the feelings. However, I do wish more of the story had these kind of moments, especially for Dust. I will be honest, I do think the story's presentation could have been better. Most of the time it's just text boxes with portraits and full voice acting, which I can kind of excuse because this was a very small development team. However, I do wish there were more animated cutscenes spread out throughout the game. Anyway, with the story out of the way, how does the game play? Okay. As I mentioned, Dust in Elysian Tail is a Metroidvania. Considering that I haven't covered Metroid or a Castlevania game on this channel except for when I Let's Played this game and Metroid Prime, I should elaborate a little more. Dust can explore a few regions, but in order to make progress, you'll have to get upgrades. These upgrades are pretty standard in Metroidvanias. A slide, a wall jump, a double jump, and a third type of jump called the boost jump. This jump can be used to rocket yourself very high when riding air currents. However, Dust does have an exclusive ability called the Dust Storm. Okay, technically there are 2 variations of the Dust Storm. One where he just kind of stands there, and then there's the aerial version. By itself, the Dust Storm is pretty useless in combat, however you can use it to bring items closer to you, but let's talk about Fidget. Besides being the comic relief, Fidget can use magic projectiles of 3 types, a basic white one, fire, and then lightning, that when used with the Dust Storm can destroy literally everything. Seriously, using Fidget's magic is the most broken thing you could ever use, and I love every second of it. You see, Dust doesn't use a gun like Samus does in Metroid, though I would like to see that. However, he uses the Blade of Aura to defeat hordes of monsters. The combos are pretty basic, but as Fidget jokingly mentions, Dust will eventually end up flying around the screen, and the game really encourages that. One thing I will admit is that while I do think the combat is fun, I was kind of hoping for more weapons to play with besides Aura. Through the story, various characters mention that there are other weapons like Aura known as the 5 Blades of Elysium, but we never see any other weapon in the game for Dust to use. It's not a huge deal to me because I do like what we have in terms of what Dust can do, but I think a few more weapon types like spears or something would have helped encourage experimentation. There are some light RPG elements in the form of Dust leveling up. When you inevitably level up, Dust can place a point in one of 4 categories: health, attack, defense, and fidget. It's all pretty standard stuff. As you level up that category, you'll get stronger, especially with fidget and attack. You can choose what category you put the level in when you level up, which allows a little customization. You want to be more defensive, then prioritize defense and health. Want to be more on the offense, upgrade attack and fidget. Now you get experience by defeating enemies, completing side quests, and simply talking to... Whoa! Look, I've played a lot of games in my life, but I'm pretty sure I've never encountered one where the character explodes upon leveling up. It looks cool in combat, but when leveling up after talking to an NPC, it's just really goofy. It just makes me think Dust was really giddy before leveling up. This also just takes out all emotion of very important plot moments. Anyway, just defeating enemies won't get you a lot of experience. You probably noticed that combo counter on the screen. Well, this is how you get even more experience. Getting a higher combo increases your bonus experience. However, if you get hit during your combo, you lose the bonus. Getting a high combo isn't that hard. It's really easy to get a 1000 hit combo with the right use of Dust and Fidget's abilities. Dust can also equip armor and accessories to boost his stats, and with the right setup, you could really break this game in half within a few hours. Seriously, I think some of the armor is a little overkill. In terms of enemies you face, they're pretty standard and nothing to make a big deal about. None of them really agitate me or make the game any harder, however there are some that require a bit finesse to defeat effectively, mainly using Dust's parry. Dust's parry can be activated by attacking an enemy at the same time as they attack you. When this happens, the enemy will be stunned and you'll have a chance to strike. It's very satisfying pulling off a parry in the middle of a huge combo and just obliterating a giant monster with no effort. In terms of combat, Dust offers a very basic system, but it doesn't matter to me personally because it's still exhilarating and overall fun. When you're not in combat, you'll be exploring the regions of Falana to your heart's content. There's the Glade, a basic forest area, and where you really get to learn how Dust works. Then there's Abadi's Forest, that's another forest area. While there's the Sorrowing Meadows where it's haunted and zombies roam, the Cinnamon Caverns full of creepy enemies and hazards that can chip away your health, the Blackmoor Mountains that's in the middle of a blizzard and a very vertical area to traverse, and finally the Everdawn Basin, a volcano with lava flowing in every direction. There are also some optional areas like the Archer's Pass and the Sanctuary, but they're mainly used for side quests. The environments are all unique in their own ways and all have fair hazards to avoid and plenty of enemies to fight. Traversing the areas isn't too much of a chore, but if you want to fast travel, there are plenty of save points spread out through each of the regions where you can use warp stones that you can either find as you explore or buy in shops. Speaking of the shop, they're also through each region and in Aurora Village, there's shops that you can spend the gold you gathered from battles. With Joker's shops here, you can buy healing items, accessories, and armors to boost stats, and other items like keys and warp stones as I mentioned. Also, you can buy and sell materials. Materials are used for crafting new armors thanks to this blacksmith named Haley. Haley will be able to craft new armor for you if you have the right materials and blueprints. You can get both of these by, of course, exploring the world and defeating enemies. Here's a tip for all of you. Register your materials as soon as possible. Once you register them, occasionally the shops will restock of that material and you can buy them at a relatively cheap price, and it makes grinding for materials a non-issue. For the most part, world exploration is nothing major. I've never really had any issue navigating the regions, and I always had plenty of warp stones on hand, so I've never felt that I had to slog through each of the regions. Actually, overall, this game is very easy, and I mean very easy. I play on normal mode most of the time, but even on the harder difficulty, I had no deaths, mainly because I had a revival stone on hand. That's even assuming I used one in the first place. I don't think I've ever seen the game over screen for this game, and to some that may be a criticism, but to me, I see that as a good thing. This is a good Metroidvania to start off with if you've never played one. It's very beginner friendly, and there's not any threats of dying or missing the 100% mark for achievements. Speaking of 100%, or 114%, there are some side quests that you can complete for various NPCs, and most of them are pretty simple. They just go to this location, do this thing, and then come back to report. None of them really made me want to rip my hair out, not even Corbin's 1000 hit combo, mainly because I mentioned earlier how easy it is to get a high combo. There's also various collectibles in the region in the form of lore pieces, treasure chests, keys, and various buddies from other indie games. In order to free the buddies, you have to get 4 treasure keys, and voila, they're free. I like this collectible because it's nice seeing these references to other indie games, but I don't know a few of them because I either A, never played them or never heard of them, but it's nice seeing other games being acknowledged, especially Braid or Bastion. One question I have is, why do I have to do a QTE in order to unlock the treasure chest and buddy cages? I already have the key, why do I need to do this in order to actually get the items? It's a minor thing, but I think it's really pointless to have this. Also, in some regions there are these challenges called the Cerulean Trials. They're essentially mini obstacle courses that test your patience and combat skills. You have to break these lanterns to get points, but you also get points based on time and for every enemy you defeat. At the end, you're ranked for your performance with up to 4 stars. Get all 4 and you get bragging rights. Also, at the end of each trial, you get some armor items for the first time. These challenges aren't really that hard and don't require too much out of you to beat. Getting 4 stars on all of the trials is satisfying, but I never really go out of my way to get them. Alright, and this game does have boss battles on occasion. Is it even accurate to call them boss battles? I mean, they're very easy, barely above a normal enemy. The only one that has any sort of challenge is the final boss with Gaius, and it's not even that much better. In fact, I'm pretty sure I just killed Fuse by the end of this paragraph. Graphically, I think this game is absolutely beautiful. I love how detailed the in-game portraits are, and the game looks absolutely smooth at a standstill and in motion. The animated cutscenes sprinkled towards the end also look great. For reference, I was playing on the PC with some pretty high settings on. However, I did have some slight stuttering throughout the dialogue sections, but I think that was because of my recorder. And as someone who owns the game on PS4 and Nintendo Switch, I can say they're on the same quality. And the game's soundtrack is really good. Most of the themes are atmospheric, and a lot of them have a nice piano mixed in, which I like. Great themes for just relaxing to. Unless you're Abadi's Forest with this epic theme, but hey, I'm not complaining, it's still good. The boss battle themes are also appropriately epic, and all feature the same melody, which is Dust's theme. In terms of bug, I never really ran into any. on the PC version. On the Nintendo Switch version, I didn't run into anything either, but on the PS4 version, I've had this game crash on so many occasions, and I don't understand what's causing it. During my Let's Play last year, the game crashed right after Dust found out his identity, and well, you can hear how happy I was.
Oh, come on!
The voice acting in this game is really good too. I don't think there was really any performance that felt wooden or awkward. I love some of the interaction between Dust and Fidget, and some of them made me laugh, especially the one about the Fidget doll, and a lot of the story scenes felt emotional, as I mentioned with the Mudpot quest. The animated cutscenes are nicely animated, it's just unfortunate that there's only a few of them and they're all occurring at the end of the game. Overall, Dust and Elysian Tail is a wonderful Metroidvania for both veterans of the genre or someone looking for something new. While I do think the story could have been fleshed out in certain aspects, the gameplay helps the game recover and makes it worth the playthrough. Dust and Elysian Tail is usually $15, and I think it's well worth the price. You can get it on Xbox, PC, PlayStation, and Switch. Also, Steam puts the game on sale on a frequent basis, so I highly recommend getting it when you can. Maybe at the Steam Winter Sale.
And that's it. I know it's been a while since my last review, and I'm pretty sure Arkham City was supposed to be next, but due to some technical errors, mainly a hard drive dying, I had to change my mind. However, that doesn't matter. Dust and Elysian Tail is a great time, and I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to get into Metroidvanias. With that said, the next time we meet for a review, I'll be forging a new frontier. So see you guys next time, and take care.